The first time I saw Unit 47, I almost walked away. I'd been driving through small towns for months, buying abandoned storage units and reselling whatever I found inside. Most of the time it was junk, broken furniture, old clothes, water-damaged electronics. But every once in a while, you'd get lucky and find vintage cameras, tools, or collectibles worth a few $100s. That morning, the auction yard sat on the edge of a dying industrial district outside Blackwood, Pennsylvania. The sky was gray, and a cold wind kept rattling the rows of metal doors. About 20 bidders stood around drinking coffee and waiting for the manager to start. One by one, the units were opened and sold. A motorcycle, a stack of comic books, a room full of restaurant equipment. The crowd got loud whenever something valuable appeared. Then the manager stopped in front of the last unit. Unit 47. Owner delinquent for over 10 years. Contents sold as is. He reached for the latch, hesitated for a second, and pulled the door upward. The metal rattled loudly, then froze halfway before he forced it open. I expected the usual clutter. Instead, the unit was almost empty. No furniture, no boxes stacked to the ceiling, no signs of anyone living there. There was only a single folding chair in the center of the room, and on the chair sat an old camcorder, pointed directly at the entrance. The lens was aimed at us. For some reason, nobody stepped closer. The crowd that had been joking and talking all morning suddenly went quiet. One man beside me muttered, "Nope." Another bidder actually took a step backward. I felt a strange pressure in my chest, the kind you get when you walk into a place where you know you're not supposed to be. The manager cleared his throat. Opening bid, $100. Silence. He looked around. 100. Nothing. A minute earlier, these people had been fighting over rusty tools, but now nobody wanted to raise a hand. That's when I noticed the red tape stretched across the back wall of the unit. It wasn't police tape. It looked older, faded and brittle, with black lettering that had worn away over time. The camcorder sat perfectly still, as if it had been waiting there for years. I should have listened to my instincts. I should have gotten back in my truck and left. Instead, I heard myself say, 100. Every head in the crowd turned toward me. The manager looked relieved, and somewhere behind me, an old man whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "That unit was never meant to be opened again." The old man was standing near the fence, half hidden behind the other bidders. He wore a dark brown coat that looked several sizes too big for him, and his gray beard moved in the wind as he stared at Unit 47 without blinking. I walked toward him after placing the bid. "What did you say?" I asked. He looked at me for a long moment before answering. "I said that unit should have stayed closed." "You know the previous owner?" His eyes shifted toward the camcorder. "I knew of him." The manager started counting down behind us. 100 going once. The old man lowered his voice. His name was Elias Ward. He rented that unit 11 years ago. Then one night, he vanished. Vanished how? No body, no car, no bank activity. The police searched for weeks and found nothing. I glanced back at the unit. The camcorder was still pointed at the entrance, and for a second I had the ridiculous feeling that it was watching us. "People disappear all the time," I said, trying to sound unconcerned. The old man shook his head. "Not like Elias. He kept telling people he had recorded something he wasn't supposed to see." The auction manager called out again. 100 going twice. The old man grabbed my wrist. His hand was surprisingly cold. "If you win that unit, don't take the camera home." I laughed nervously. "Why?" "Because he didn't buy that camera," he whispered. "He found it." A chill ran through me. Before I could ask another question, the manager shouted, "Sold! Unit 47 to bidder number 12. The crowd immediately started moving away as if the auction were over and they wanted to put as much distance between themselves and that storage unit as possible. The old man released my wrist and stepped back. "What was recorded on the tapes?" I asked. His expression changed, and for the first time he looked genuinely afraid. "There were no tapes when Elias disappeared," he said. Then he turned and walked toward the parking lot. I watched him go, expecting him to look back. He never did. When I returned to the unit, the manager handed me the paperwork. "You got a bargain," he said, though he didn't sound happy about it. "How long has it been locked up?" 10 years, 7 months. He avoided looking inside. "You can clear it out today if you want." I stepped across the threshold. The air inside was colder than the air outside, and it carried a faint smell of dust and something metallic, like old blood that had been cleaned away. The camcorder sat on the chair exactly where I'd seen it from outside. As I moved closer, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The battery indicator was glowing. The camera was still on. For a few seconds, I just stood there staring at the tiny red light on the side of the camcorder. It was impossible. The unit had supposedly been locked for over 10 years. Even if the battery had been fully charged when Elias disappeared, it should have died a decade ago. But the red light was steady, recording. I stepped closer, moving slowly, as if a sudden movement might trigger something. The camcorder was an old Sony Handycam, the kind that used mini DV tapes. Dust covered the body, but the lens looked strangely clean, as though someone had wiped it recently. I reached out and pressed the stop button. Nothing happened. The light stayed on. I pressed it again, harder this time, still recording. Cold knot formed in my stomach. "Okay," I muttered to myself. "That's not normal." I picked the camera up. The metal felt colder than it should have, almost like it had been sitting in a freezer. The screen was folded inward, so I opened it. The display flickered once and showed a grainy black and white image. At first I thought the camera was pointed at me. Then I realized I was looking at the inside of the storage unit, from a corner near the ceiling. The camera was showing a live view from a position where it physically was not. I turned around. The corner was empty. No second camera. No mirror. No hidden monitor. The image on the screen trembled slightly, and I saw myself standing in the middle of the unit holding the camcorder. My own face looked pale and distorted. Then the image shifted. The storage unit was suddenly empty. The chair was gone. The camcorder was gone. And a man was standing near the back wall, facing the faded red tape. He wore a dark jacket and had short hair. I had never seen him before, but somehow I knew exactly who he was. Elias Ward. He was holding a flashlight in one hand and looking directly at the tape on the wall. The timestamp in the corner read, October 14th, 2015, 11:43 p.m. 11 years ago. I swallowed hard and kept watching. Elias stepped closer to the wall and ran his fingers along the red tape. His flashlight beam shook slightly, like he was nervous. Then he spoke. "I know you're still down there." The audio was weak, buried under static, but I heard it clearly enough. A low knocking sound answered him from behind the wall. 3 slow knocks. Elias froze. The knocking came again. "Knock! Knock! Knock!" He backed away from the wall and turned toward the camera. For a split second, his eyes widened as if he had seen something standing behind the lens. Then the screen erupted into static. I nearly dropped the camcorder. The static hiss filled the unit for 2 or 3 seconds before the image returned. Now it was showing the storage unit exactly as it looked in the present. The chair was back. The red tape was back. And I was standing there, breathing hard, holding the camera. A new message appeared at the bottom of the screen in white block letters. Playback complete. I stared at it, trying to convince myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe someone had left an old recording in the camera. Maybe the timestamp was wrong. Maybe the stress and the old man's story were getting into my head. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The message disappeared, and the screen switched back to recording mode. The red light began blinking again, and in the reflection of the display, I saw a dark shape standing behind me near the back wall. I spun around. The wall was empty, but the red tape was no longer flat against the concrete. One section of it was moving slightly, as if something on the other side had just touched it. I forced myself to stay still. The strip of red tape hung from the concrete wall, swaying gently even though there was no wind inside the unit. For a moment, I considered walking out, locking the door, and pretending none of this had happened. I'd spent enough time around abandoned buildings to know when a place felt wrong, and Unit 47 felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain. But I'd already bought it, and curiosity has always been my biggest weakness. I stepped toward the wall. The tape was brittle with age, and black dust flaked off when I touched it. Up close, I could finally make out some of the faded lettering. Authorized access only. The rest had worn away. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam revealed hairline cracks running through the concrete around the taped section, forming a rough rectangle about the size of a door. A hidden entrance. My pulse started hammering. I pressed my ear against the wall. At first I heard nothing. Then, very faintly, a low humming sound drifted through the concrete, like an electrical transformer buried underground. The same 3 knocks came again. Knock, knock, knock. This time they were unmistakably coming from the other side. I stumbled backward. The camcorder, still in my hand, emitted a burst of static. The screen flickered on by itself and new text appeared. Unit 47, access log found. A grainy image filled the display. It showed the same wall, but the tape was gone and the hidden doorway stood open. A narrow stairwell descended into darkness. The timestamp read, October 14th, 2015, 11:58 p.m. Elias was standing at the top of the stairs. He looked terrified. "I shouldn't be doing this," he whispered into the camera. The humming from below was much louder in the recording. Elias took one step down, then another. The camera angle shook as he descended, revealing stained concrete walls and rusted pipes running along the ceiling. About halfway down, he stopped and aimed the flashlight at something written on the wall. I leaned closer to the screen. The words were smeared in black paint. "Do not let it record you." A loud crash echoed from below, and Elias jerked the camera downward. The image blurred for a second. When it cleared, a figure was standing at the bottom of the stairs. Tall, thin, completely motionless. His face was hidden in shadow. Elias sucked in a sharp breath and backed up a step. The figure didn't move. Then the recording cut to static. I lowered the camcorder, my hands shaking. The humming behind the wall was still there. And before I could react, a thin line appeared in the concrete where the hidden doorway should have been. Dust trickled down onto the floor. Something behind the wall was pushing outward. Slowly, the outline of a door began to emerge from the concrete, as if it had been waiting years for someone to find it again. The crack widened with a grinding sound that echoed through the storage unit. I backed away until my shoulders hit the metal door behind me. Dust poured from the wall as the outline of the hidden doorway became clearer. It was exactly where the red tape had been. An old steel door buried beneath a layer of concrete and paint. The humming grew louder, not electrical. It sounded more like dozens of cassette tapes playing at once, all slightly out of sync. The camcorder screen flickered again. Access point active. I swallowed hard and looked at the wall. The door was moving. A narrow gap opened along the right edge, and a breath of cold air rushed into the unit. It smelled damp, like underground tunnels that had been sealed for years. Then I heard it. A voice, very faint. "Help me." I froze. It sounded like it was coming from below the door. "Hello," I called out before I could stop myself. No answer. I took a cautious step forward and aimed my phone flashlight into the gap. The beam disappeared into darkness. I couldn't see stairs, only a narrow concrete passage descending at an angle. The camcorder emitted another burst of static. When I looked down, the screen was showing the passageway from inside, as if someone farther down the tunnel was filming upward toward me. A figure appeared at the top of the frame. Me. The camera was showing me standing in front of the door in real time. My chest tightened. There was no second camera down there. I slowly raised my hand. The figure on the screen raised its hand a split second later. The delay was wrong, just enough to feel unnatural. Then the figure on the screen stopped moving. I was still holding my hand in the air, but the version of me inside the tunnel had lowered his arm and was staring directly into the camera. A smile spread across his face. I stumbled backward and nearly dropped the camcorder. The image snapped back to normal, showing only darkness in the tunnel. "Okay," I whispered, breathing hard. Okay, I'm leaving. I turned toward the storage unit door. It slammed shut. The impact made the entire unit shake. I grabbed the handle and pulled. Locked. A metallic click echoed from inside the wall, followed by the sound of something moving in the passage below. Slow footsteps. One step, then another. They were coming up toward the doorway. The camcorder screen filled with static, and a distorted voice crackled through the speaker. Elias tried to leave too. The footsteps stopped just beyond the opening. I couldn't see anyone, but I could hear breathing coming from the darkness behind the door in the wall. I pressed my back against the storage unit door and held my breath. The breathing on the other side of the hidden doorway was slow and wet, as if whoever was standing there had been underground for a very long time. The camcorder remained in my hands, its speaker crackling with static. Then the footsteps started again. One step, another. They were climbing upward through the passage. I aimed my phone flashlight at the opening, but the beam seemed to get swallowed by the darkness. The cold air pouring from the tunnel felt stronger now, carrying a faint smell of mold and something rotten. "Who's there?" I shouted. The footsteps stopped. For a few seconds, the only sound was the humming from below. Then a voice answered from the darkness. "Elias!" It was barely a whisper. I took a step forward before I realized what I was doing. "Elias Ward?" No response. The camcorder screen flickered, and a new recording began playing automatically. The timestamp read, October 15th, 2015, 12:07 a.m. The footage showed Elias running through the same underground passage, breathing hard. The camera shook violently as he looked over his shoulder. "Don't follow the voice," he gasped. "It isn't a person." A loud metallic bang echoed behind him. Elias reached a heavy steel door and slammed it shut. He fumbled with a chain lock while something pounded against the other side. Bang, bang. Dust fell from the ceiling. "It records everyone who comes down here," Elias whispered. "And once it has your face, it starts making copies." My stomach tightened. On the recording, Elias slowly turned the camera toward the corner of the room. Someone was standing there. It looked exactly like him. Same clothes, same haircut, same terrified expression. The duplicate smiled. The recording cut to static. I lowered the camcorder, my hands trembling. A soft scraping sound came from the tunnel entrance. Something was dragging itself across the concrete. The breathing was closer now, much closer. I forced myself to look toward the opening. At first I saw nothing. Then a pale hand appeared around the edge of the hidden doorway. The fingers were unnaturally long, and the skin looked gray, almost translucent in the flashlight beam. The hand tightened around the metal frame. Another hand appeared beneath it, and then, very slowly, a face began to emerge from the darkness. I felt my blood turn to ice. The face was mine. Not similar, not almost. It was my exact face, staring at me from the tunnel with empty black eyes and a smile that was just a little too wide. The copy tilted its head and whispered in my own voice, "You should have left when the auction ended." For a moment, my body forgot how to move. The thing standing in the tunnel had my face, my eyes, even the small scar above my left eyebrow that I got from a bicycle accident when I was 12. But its expression was wrong. The smile stretched too far across its face, and the blackness in its eyes looked like empty holes cut into a photograph. Took one step out of the doorway. The motion was stiff, like it was learning how a human body was supposed to walk. I raised the camcorder without thinking. The screen immediately switched on and showed the same scene from a different angle, as if another camera were watching from the ceiling. On the display, I could see myself standing near the storage door while the copy emerged from the tunnel behind me. But there was one difference. The version of me on the screen was already turning to run. I wasn't. The copy's smile widened. "You're slower than the recording," it said in my voice. I finally snapped out of the paralysis and grabbed a rusted metal pipe from the floor beside the wall. The copy tilted its head. "You won't hit yourself," it whispered. Then it moved, not walking, lunging. I swung the pipe as hard as I could. The metal connected with its shoulder, and the impact sent a shock through my arms. The copy staggered sideways into the concrete wall, but instead of crying out, it laughed. The sound was identical to my own laugh, just layered with a faint static hiss. I backed away toward the storage door, searching for a way out. The handle still wouldn't budge. The copy straightened slowly. Its shoulder hung at an unnatural angle for a second, then twisted back into place with a wet crack. My stomach turned. "That camera already has you," it said. "It only needs one good recording." The camcorder in my hand began to vibrate. The screen changed again. Now it was showing a countdown. 0:59, 0:58, 0:57. "What the hell is that?" I muttered. The copy looked at the screen and smiled. "When it reaches 0, the next tape is made." I looked around desperately. The hidden doorway was still open, the tunnel descending into darkness behind the copy. The red tape on the wall fluttered as if air were moving upward from below. The countdown hit 0:42. The copy took another step toward me. I raised the pipe again. "Stay back." It stopped, but only because it seemed amused. "You think Elias didn't try this?" it asked. He broke the camera 3 times. Every time it came back. The countdown reached 0:30. A new sound echoed from the tunnel, more footsteps. Not one set, several. Slow, uneven footsteps climbing from the darkness below. The copy glanced over its shoulder for the first time, and I saw something that looked almost like fear cross its face. Then all the lights in the storage facility went out. The unit dropped into complete darkness. The camcorder screen became the only source of light, casting a pale glow across the copy's face. The countdown continued. 0:14, 0:13. The footsteps from the tunnel were getting closer. And somewhere in the darkness below, another voice whispered. It found a new subject. The darkness felt heavy, as if the air itself had thickened around me. The camcorder screen was the only light left in Unit 47, and its pale glow made the copy's face look even less human. The black eyes reflected nothing. The countdown reached 0:05, 0:04. The footsteps from the tunnel stopped. Whoever or whatever had been climbing was now standing somewhere just beyond the hidden doorway. The copy slowly backed away from me, turning toward the tunnel as though it was waiting for instructions. 0:03. A low mechanical click echoed from inside the camcorder. 0:02. The screen flickered violently. 0:01. Then the countdown disappeared. A message appeared in white block letters. Recording complete. The camcorder emitted a loud whirring sound, like a tape being automatically ejected and replaced. And then the screen turned black. For one horrible second, I thought the camera had died. The copy was gone. The tunnel entrance was just a dark rectangle in the wall. I could hear my own breathing, fast and uneven. Then the screen came back on by itself. A new timestamp appeared. July 23rd, 2026, 2:14 a.m. Tomorrow night. My blood ran cold. The camera was showing the storage unit from the ceiling again. I watched myself standing exactly where I was now, still holding the metal pipe. But the future version of me looked exhausted, covered in dust, and there was blood running down the side of my face. He was staring at the hidden doorway. Someone stepped out of the tunnel. It wasn't the copy. It was a woman wearing a faded hospital gown, her hair hanging over her face. She moved slowly, dragging one foot behind her. Future me whispered, "Who are you?" The woman lifted her head. Her face was pale and sunken, but I could still make out the features. I had seen her before, on the hospital bracelet. Elias Ward wasn't the patient. She was. The woman looked directly into the camera, and then she spoke my name. Not the future version of my name. The one I was hearing in the present. "Daniel." "Don't let it finish." The screen filled with static. A deafening scream burst from the camcorder speaker, and every light in the storage facility came back on at once. I nearly dropped the camera. The hidden doorway slammed shut with a thunderous bang, sealing the tunnel behind the wall. The red tape fell to the floor in strips. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Then I noticed something sitting on the folding chair in the center of the unit. The tape. It hadn't been there before. A fresh mini DV tape with a handwritten label. Subject 48. First recording. And beneath it, written in darker ink, "Do not watch alone." I stared at the tape for several seconds before I realized I was holding my breath. The label was written in thick black marker. Subject 48. First recording. The handwriting looked shaky, as if the person who wrote it had been terrified. And underneath, in darker ink that looked almost wet, "Do not watch alone." The camcorder in my hand was completely silent now. The red recording light had gone out, and for the first time since I entered Unit 47, it felt like an ordinary piece of equipment. That should have made me feel better. Didn't. I approached the folding chair slowly, keeping my eyes on the hidden doorway in case it opened again. The wall looked solid, as if the tunnel had never existed. Only the strips of fallen red tape on the floor proved I hadn't imagined it. I picked up the new tape. It was warm. Not room temperature, body temperature. A chill ran through me. "Nope," I whispered. "Absolutely not." I shoved the tape into my jacket pocket and headed for the storage unit door. This time, when I pulled the handle, it opened immediately. The parking lot outside was empty. The auction was long over. The sun had dropped lower in the sky, and the entire facility looked abandoned. My truck was the only vehicle left in the lot. I got inside, locked the doors, and sat there for a full minute trying to process what had happened. A rational part of my brain kept searching for explanations. Someone had hidden a projector in the unit. The recordings were elaborate hoaxes. Stress and the old man's story had made me hallucinate. But none of those explanations accounted for the tape that had appeared out of nowhere. My phone buzzed, making me jump. A text message from an unknown number. "You opened it." I stared at the screen. Another message arrived immediately. Elias couldn't close it again. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. "Who is this?" The reply came before I could send it. "Check the hospital bracelet." Then the number went offline. I reached into the passenger seat where I'd tossed the bracelet earlier. The plastic tag was scratched and yellowed with age. Patient: Mara Ward. Relationship: sister of Elias Ward. Sister. The woman in the future recording had been Mara. I flipped the bracelet over. Something had been carved into the back by hand. The letters so shallow I hadn't noticed them before. Unit 47 is not storage. A cold wave passed through me. I looked back toward the facility. From my truck, I could see the row of storage doors stretching into the distance. Unit 47 was near the far end. Its door was closed, but the old camcorder was now sitting outside on the concrete, directly in front of the unit, facing my truck. I was certain I had brought the camera with me. My hands started shaking again. The camcorder's red recording light blinked once, then twice, and even from that distance, I could see the lens slowly turning until it was pointed directly at me. I didn't remember leaving the camcorder outside. 1 second, it had been in my truck with me. The next, it was sitting on the concrete in front of Unit 47, pointed directly at my windshield. The red recording light blinked steadily. I locked the truck doors again, even though they were already locked. "Okay," I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're not doing this." The camcorder's lens moved. Not quickly, slowly, with a faint mechanical whir, until it was perfectly centered on me. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "Don't let it film your eyes." I looked away from the camera instinctively. A second message appeared. "If it gets a clear recording, IT can replace you." My mouth went dry. Replace me. I thought about the copy I had seen in the tunnel, the thing wearing my face. Before I could decide what to do, the camcorder screen flipped open by itself. Even from 30 yards away, I could see the display glowing, and I could see my truck on the screen. The camera was filming me in real time. Then the image changed. The screen showed the inside of my truck from the passenger seat. I turned slowly. The passenger seat was empty, but on the camcorder display, someone was sitting there. A pale version of me, head tilted toward the driver's seat, smiling. I jerked my eyes away before it could look directly at me. "Stop looking at it," I muttered. I started the engine, intending to drive away and figure this out later. The truck wouldn't start. The dashboard lights came on, but the engine only clicked. Once, twice, dead. The camcorder speaker crackled, and a distorted version of my own voice came through. "You already took the tape home." I froze. The tape was still in my jacket pocket. How could it know that? The voice continued, layered with static. "Subject 48 has accepted possession." A cold pressure spread through my chest. Outside, the camcorder slowly rolled forward across the concrete by itself. No wires, no one touching it. It stopped directly in front of the truck's bumper. Then the storage facility lights began turning off one by one. Click. The row farthest from me went dark. Click. Another row. Click. The darkness moved closer like a wave. Unit 47 was the only door still illuminated. And as the last light above it flickered, I saw a figure standing beside the unit. Tall, motionless, wearing a dark jacket. Elias Ward. He raised one hand and pointed toward the camcorder. Then the light went out, and he vanished into the darkness. My hands were locked around the steering wheel. The parking lot was almost completely dark now, lit only by the weak glow of my dashboard and the camcorder sitting in front of the truck. I knew what I had seen. Elias Ward had been standing beside Unit 47. Not a reflection, not a shadow. He had looked directly at me and pointed at the camera. The engine clicked again when I turned the key. Nothing. The camcorder speaker crackled with static. Then a new voice came through. Not mine. Not the distorted copy. A tired, frightened male voice. "If you can hear this, I'm still alive." I froze. The voice was clearer than any of the previous recordings. "My name is Elias Ward. Don't trust the versions of me you see outside the unit. It can use my image now." The camcorder screen turned on, showing grainy footage of a small concrete room underground. Elias sat on the floor with the camera propped against a metal box. He looked older than in the previous recordings, thinner, with a beard and dark circles under his eyes. "How is this possible?" I whispered. On the screen, Elias glanced toward the door of the room as if he had heard me. "It records people," he said. "Not just their faces, their voice, their movements, pieces of who they are." A distant banging echoed through his recording. Bang. Elias flinched. "I thought it was a machine when I found it. Some kind of government experiment hidden under the storage facility. I was wrong." The banging came again, louder. Bang, bang. Elias lowered his voice. "The thing below the facility can't leave on its own. It needs a recorded subject to imitate. The longer it studies someone, the more accurate the copy becomes." My chest tightened. The copy in the tunnel had already looked exactly like me. Elias looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this, it has started recording you. That means you're subject 48. The number on the tape label flashed through my mind. He reached behind the metal box and pulled out a small key attached to a rusted tag marked 47B. "There's a second room beneath the tunnel. I hid the shut-off key there. If you can get to it before the next recording cycle finishes, you might be able to stop this." The lights inside his room suddenly flickered. Elias's expression changed from fear to panic. "It found me." The camera shook as he stood up. "Listen carefully. If you see me outside the unit, do not follow me. The real me is still below." The recording cut off mid-sentence. The screen went black. For a few seconds, the parking lot was silent. Then my truck's radio turned on by itself. Static filled the cabin. A voice whispered through the speakers. "He never left the underground room." I looked toward Unit 47. The camcorder was gone, and the storage unit door was slowly rolling open on its own. The metal door of Unit 47 rose inch by inch, grinding against the tracks with a sound that made my teeth hurt. I didn't touch it. The wind outside had died completely, yet the door kept opening until it stopped halfway, leaving a dark gap beneath it. The truck radio continued hissing with static. Then the whisper came again. "He wants you to come down." I grabbed my phone and aimed the flashlight at the unit. The beam reached the entrance, but the interior looked wrong. The folding chair was gone, and the back wall seemed farther away than it had been before, as if the room had stretched. My jacket pocket suddenly felt heavy. I pulled out the tape labeled Subject 48, first recording. The plastic shell was warm again, and now there was something else written on it. A second line had appeared beneath the original warning. Play before the door closes. I am not playing this, I said out loud. The truck radio clicked. A new voice came through, my voice. You already did. Every hair on my arms stood up. The camcorder was sitting inside the unit again, directly in the center of the floor, facing outward toward me. I had not seen it return. The screen was open, and a video was playing. Against my better judgment, I looked. The footage showed me standing beside my truck exactly as I was now, holding the tape in my hand. The timestamp read, July 22nd, 2026, 8:41 p.m. 10 minutes in the future. Future me looked exhausted. He turned toward the camera and spoke urgently. Daniel, listen to me. The door is going to close in less than a minute. If it closes while the tape is outside, the recording cycle completes and the copy becomes permanent. My throat tightened. Future me held up the rusted key tagged 47B. I found this under the stairs. Elias was telling the truth. A loud alarm began blaring somewhere underground. Future me looked over his shoulder, terrified. It's coming back up. The video shook violently. I caught a glimpse of a long pale arm reaching around the hidden doorway. Then the recording cut to static. At that exact moment, a deep metallic clang echoed from inside Unit 47. The hidden wall at the back of the unit split open again, revealing the dark stairwell descending underground. Cold air rushed out, carrying the smell of damp concrete and rust. And from somewhere far below, I heard a woman scream. The scream echoed through the stairwell like it was traveling up from miles underground. It was a woman's voice, raw, terrified, and suddenly cut short. I stood frozen beside the truck, the tape clenched in my hand. The hidden doorway remained open, and the darkness below seemed deeper than before. My phone flashlight barely reached the first few steps before the beam was swallowed completely. Then I heard a voice from the tunnel. Daniel, Mara. It sounded exactly like the woman from the future recording. Please, she whispered. It's waking up. My first instinct was to run. Every survival instinct I had was screaming at me to get back in the truck and leave Blackwood forever. But the truck still wouldn't start. And Elias had said the copy would become permanent if the recording cycle finished. A faint glow appeared deep in the stairwell. Not a flashlight. A pale, bluish light that pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. I took one cautious step into the storage unit. The camcorder remained on the floor, pointed toward the stairs. The screen showed a live feed of the tunnel from somewhere below, as if another camera were waiting underground. The image trembled, and I saw a narrow concrete corridor lined with rusted pipes. Then a figure ran across the frame, a woman in a hospital gown. Mara, I called out. The live feed stopped. Static filled the screen, and a new message appeared. Subject 48. Descent required. The stairwell hummed in response. I looked back toward the parking lot. The darkness outside had spread across the entire facility. The only illuminated place left was Unit 47, as though the building itself wanted me to go down. Daniel, Mara whispered again, closer this time. It can hear your heartbeat. A cold wave passed through my chest. I stepped to the top of the stairs and aimed my flashlight downward. The concrete steps were wet, and fresh footprints led into the darkness. Bare footprints, not old marks, these were recent. I started down. The temperature dropped immediately. The air smelled of mold, rust, and something chemical, like an abandoned hospital basement. After about 20 steps, I reached a small landing. On the wall, someone had written a sentence in black paint. The camera doesn't show the real hallway. My flashlight flickered. For a split second, the landing looked different, longer, with another corridor extending to the left that hadn't been there a moment earlier. When the light steadied, the corridor was gone. A soft metallic click echoed below me. Then another, like locks being opened one by one. Mara's voice came from somewhere ahead. Hurry, it already made one copy. I tightened my grip on the pipe and the tape. Where are you? No answer. Only the sound of something moving slowly through the darkness beneath the landing, dragging itself across the concrete floor toward me. The dragging sound stopped the moment I turned my flashlight toward it. The beam revealed a narrow corridor stretching ahead, its concrete walls stained with dark streaks that looked almost black in the weak light. Rusted pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping water that echoed through the underground level. I took a slow step forward. The tape in my pocket felt warm again. Then I remembered the warning painted on the wall. The camera doesn't show the real hallway. I looked down at the camcorder, which I had picked up from the landing. The screen showed something completely different. According to the camera, the corridor ahead was clean, brightly lit, and ended at a steel door marked Archive B. The live feed looked like a functioning facility, not the rotting tunnel I was standing in. My stomach tightened. I pointed my phone flashlight at the real hallway again. Cracked concrete, rust, darkness. I looked back at the screen. Bright lights, white walls, no rust at all. The camera was lying. A soft laugh echoed somewhere ahead. Not through the speaker, in the actual tunnel. I turned the camcorder toward the sound. The screen instantly filled with static, and a distorted version of my own face appeared for a split second before disappearing. Don't use it to navigate, Mara whispered from the darkness. That's how it gets you lost. Where are you? I asked. Keep walking, and if the hallway changes, don't follow the new path. The humming returned, louder than before. I moved deeper into the corridor, keeping my eyes on the real walls instead of the camcorder screen. Every few steps, I noticed strange marks scratched into the concrete. Tallies, arrows, and desperate messages. It knows your voice. Don't look at yourself. 47B opens the lower archive. My flashlight flickered again. When it came back on, the hallway had changed. A second corridor had appeared on the left. I stopped dead. It hadn't been there a second ago. The new passage was cleaner than the main tunnel, with smooth concrete walls and a faint blue light glowing at the far end. The camcorder screen showed only that new corridor, as if the original tunnel no longer existed. Don't go that way, Mara said immediately. The blue-lit passage looked far more inviting than the dark corridor I was in. I could even hear what sounded like a running ventilation system from that direction. Then a voice called from the new hallway. My voice. Daniel, this way. I found the key. I felt my body lean toward the sound before I caught myself. The copy. It was trying to lure me in. I backed away from the new corridor and kept moving forward through the original tunnel. The blue light behind me began to fade, and the extra hallway slowly dissolved into darkness, like a reflection disappearing from water. My heart was pounding now. How many copies are there? I whispered. For the first time, Mara sounded unsure. I only saw one before, she said. If it's making more, then the recording cycle is accelerating. A heavy metallic door emerged from the darkness ahead. Bolted across the center was a rusted plate stamped with white letters. Lower Archive, authorized access only. And hanging from the lock was a small tag. 47B. The key was already in the lock. I stopped a few feet from the door, staring at the rusted tag marked 47B. It swung gently back and forth even though the air in the tunnel was completely still. Mara whispered through the darkness behind me. That key wasn't there when Elias came down. Cold knot formed in my stomach. Then who put it there? No answer. The camcorder screen flickered. According to the live feed, the door in front of me was standing wide open, revealing a bright archive room filled with shelves and labeled tapes. In reality, the steel door was shut tight. I ignored the screen and reached for the key. The moment my fingers touched it, the metal felt warm, exactly like the tape in my pocket. A pulse seemed to travel through the key and into my hand. The humming deep in the facility suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Then, somewhere far below, a lock clicked open. I turned the key. The mechanism groaned like it hadn't moved in decades. Rust flaked from the lock and fell to the floor. With a heavy clang, the bolts released. The door opened inward by itself. A wave of cold air rolled out, carrying the smell of dust, mold, and something electrical. My flashlight beam swept across a large underground room. Rows of metal shelves stretched into the darkness, each one filled with mini DV tapes stacked in neat boxes. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Every box had a number: Subject 12, Subject 19, Subject 31, Subject 47. My throat tightened. This wasn't a hidden room. It was an archive. I stepped inside carefully. The floor was covered in a thin layer of dust, but I immediately noticed a set of fresh footprints leading between the shelves. Bare footprints. Mara had been here. The camcorder in my hand emitted a soft beep. The screen switched to playback mode on its own. A label appeared. Subject 47, final entry. Elias appeared on the screen, breathing hard. He was standing in this exact archive room. "If anyone finds this," he whispered, "the copies are stored here after each cycle. They keep the recordings even if the subject dies." He turned the camera toward a shelf marked active subjects. Only one slot was occupied. The label read, 48. My number. Elias looked back at the camera, panic in his eyes. "It hasn't finished with you yet. When the slot is filled, the copy becomes stable." A loud metallic scrape echoed somewhere behind him in the recording. Elias spun around. The shelves at the far end of the archive were moving, not shaking, sliding apart, revealing a dark opening in the wall. Elias whispered one final sentence before the video cut out. "The real archive is below this one." The camcorder screen went black. At that exact moment, I heard the same metallic scraping sound in the present. I looked up. At the far end of the room, the shelves were slowly sliding apart on their own, opening a narrow passage into complete darkness. And from inside that hidden passage, I heard footsteps approaching. The footsteps were slow, deliberate. Each one echoed through the archive room with a hollow metallic thud. I killed my flashlight instinctively and crouched behind the nearest shelf, my heart pounding so hard I was sure whatever was coming could hear it. The shelves at the far end had fully separated now, revealing a narrow passage descending deeper underground. A faint blue light pulsed from below, the same unnatural glow I had seen earlier in the false hallway. The footsteps grew louder. A figure emerged from the hidden passage. At first I thought it was Elias. Dark jacket, same height, same build. But when the figure stepped into the weak blue light, I saw its face. It was me, not the copy I had seen in the tunnel before. This one looked more complete. Its skin had color, its movements were smoother, and its eyes were no longer empty black voids. They looked almost human. Almost. The copy walked directly toward the active subject's shelf. My shelf. It reached out and touched the empty slot labeled 48. Then it spoke in a calm voice that sounded exactly like mine. "Subject 48 is still incomplete." A second voice answered from the darkness below. "You allowed the original to enter the archive." The copy lowered its head slightly, as if being scolded. "The original carries the tape. The cycle can still be completed." Ice ran through my veins. They were talking about me like I was an object. The unseen voice spoke again, deeper this time. "Bring him to the lower archive. The recording must be finished before dawn." The copy turned its head slowly, scanning the rows of shelves. I held my breath. For a second, its eyes passed directly over my hiding place. Then it smiled. "I know you're here, Daniel." My muscles locked. The copy took a step toward my shelf. Another. "Elias hid for 3 days," it said softly. It didn't help him. I gripped the rusted pipe tighter. The copy stopped only a few feet away from me. Through the gaps in the shelving, I could see my own face staring back at me. "You want to know what happened to Mara?" It whispered. My mouth went dry. The copy tilted its head. "She tried to destroy her tape. The archive kept recording anyway." A faint cry echoed from somewhere below the passage. "Mara. She was still alive." The copy heard it too and looked back toward the hidden opening. "She's in the lower archive," it said. "Come with me, and I'll take you to her." I didn't move. The copy's expression hardened. If you make me bring you by force, the recording will be much less pleasant. Behind it, the blue light pulsed brighter. And for the first time, I saw something moving deep in the passage beyond the shelves. A massive shadow shifting slowly in the darkness, far larger than any human figure. The copy noticed where I was looking. The smile returned. That, it whispered, is what has been watching the tapes. The shadow in the passage moved again. Not a person, not even close. It was too large to fit the shape of the tunnel, as if something enormous were pressing itself through a space that had been built for humans. I could hear a slow scraping sound, like stone grinding against metal. The copy watched my reaction carefully. That's what has been recording everyone, it said. The cameras are only its eyes. My throat felt tight. What is it? The copy smiled. No one has ever seen all of it and stayed sane. Another cry echoed from below. Mara! I shouted before I could stop myself. The sound bounced through the underground complex. The copy's expression changed instantly. Now it knows exactly where you are. The blue light in the passage brightened, and the massive shadow seemed to rise higher, unfolding in the darkness. I didn't wait. I swung the rusted pipe through the gap in the shelves and smashed it into the copy's face. The impact was real. Bone cracked. The copy staggered backward into a stack of tape boxes, sending them crashing across the floor. But instead of falling, it straightened slowly, its head twisting back into place with a wet popping sound. Elias broke 3 of us, it said, blood running from its nose. It only made the next version better. I turned and ran. The archive stretched ahead in rows of metal shelves, my footsteps thundering across the concrete floor. Behind me, the copy started running too, faster than any human should have been able to move. Left! Mara's voice shouted from somewhere ahead. I skidded around the end of a shelf and found a narrow service corridor I hadn't noticed before. The walls were lined with electrical panels, many of them hanging open with wires spilling out. The humming returned, louder than ever. Halfway down the corridor, I saw a heavy maintenance door standing slightly open. A pale hand shot through the gap and grabbed my sleeve. I almost screamed and swung the pipe again, but Mara pulled me inside and slammed the door shut. She was real, thin, exhausted, and wearing the same faded hospital gown from the recordings. Her dark hair was tangled, and deep bruises circled both wrists. Quiet, she whispered. The copy's footsteps stopped outside the door. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Then my own voice came from the other side. Daniel, open the door. Mara shook her head immediately. It can imitate anyone whose tape is active. The voice came again, softer this time. Please, you left me in the archive. It sounded exactly like me pleading for help. I felt my stomach twist. Mara leaned close and whispered, Don't answer it. It wants a clean recording of your voice. A long silence followed. Then something brushed slowly across the outside of the door. Not a hand. Something much larger. The metal bowed inward with a deep groan. Mara's face went pale. It brought the Watcher, she whispered. From the corridor beyond the door came a sound I'll never forget. A deep, wet breathing that seemed to come from several mouths at once. The overhead light flickered, and under the door, a thin black liquid began to seep into the room. The black liquid crept across the concrete floor like it was alive. It wasn't thick like oil. It moved too smoothly, spreading in thin branching lines that searched the room, curling around debris and flowing toward us with unnatural purpose. Mara backed away from the door, her breathing quick and shallow. Don't let it touch you, she whispered. What is it? It's what's left of the failed copies. The metal door groaned again. A massive shape shifted outside, and the overhead light flickered so violently that the room plunged into darkness for a second before buzzing back on. The liquid had already reached the center of the floor. I grabbed a broken metal toolbox and shoved it into the black stream. The moment the liquid touched the metal, it began climbing over the surface in thin tendrils, as if testing it. Then faces appeared inside it. Pale human faces, half-formed and stretched beneath the glossy surface, mouths opening silently. I stumbled backward, Mara grabbed my arm. This way. She led me through the maintenance room toward a narrow hatch in the far wall. The rusted cover was already loose, and cold air drifted through the opening. Behind us, my own voice echoed from outside the door. Daniel, it's inside with you. The black liquid suddenly surged forward, racing across the floor. Mara ripped the hatch open and pushed me through first. I crawled into a tight concrete service tunnel just as the liquid reached the doorway behind us. She slammed the hatch shut. A wet impact hit the other side immediately. Then another. The hatch bulged inward. We crawled deeper into the tunnel on our hands and knees, the air thick with dust. Pipes ran along the ceiling only inches above my head, and somewhere ahead I could hear the steady drip of water. Mara finally stopped beside a small maintenance alcove and pressed her back against the wall, exhausted. I looked at her properly for the first time. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s. The hospital gown hung loosely on her, and there were old tape marks on her neck and temples, as if wires had been attached there for a long time. "You've been down here for 11 years?" I asked. She shook her head. "Not continuously. The archive doesn't experience time the same way." I stared at her. "What does that mean?" Mara looked down the tunnel before answering. "Sometimes a few hours pass down here while days pass above. Sometimes the opposite happens. That's why Elias kept making recordings for the future. He was trying to get a message to whoever opened Unit 47 next." A loud bang echoed through the tunnel behind us. The hatch had been torn open. Something was crawling inside. We heard metal scraping against concrete, followed by the sound of liquid dripping steadily onto the floor. Mara's face went pale. It followed us. The tunnel lights flickered on one by one, stretching a dim yellow glow into the darkness ahead. At the far end of the tunnel, I could see another door. Unlike the others, this one was clean. White paint, no rust, and stamped across the center in black letters. "Primary recording chamber." Mara grabbed my wrist before I could move. "That's where the Watcher is." Another scrape sounded behind us, much closer now. And from somewhere in the darkness of the tunnel came my own voice, whispering softly. "I can see you." My own voice echoed through the tunnel. "I can see you." It came from behind us, somewhere beyond the torn hatch, carried through the narrow concrete passage by the dripping sound of the black liquid. Mara's grip tightened around my wrist. "Don't answer it," she whispered. "It's trying to make you react." The tunnel lights flickered again, and for a split second the walls seemed to pulse, as if the entire underground complex were breathing. Ahead of us, the white door marked primary recording chamber stood perfectly still. Behind us, something scraped across the concrete. Closer. I raised the rusted pipe and turned toward the darkness. At first I saw nothing. Then a shape crawled into the dim light at the far end of the tunnel. It was the copy. Its clothes were soaked with the black liquid, and part of its face looked unfinished, as though the skin had been peeled away and replaced with flickering static. One eye was normal. The other was a shifting black void. It smiled when it saw me. "You shouldn't have brought Mara this far," it said in my voice. Mara stepped in front of me. "Stay away from him." The copy tilted its head. "You're already dead, Mara." Her face went white, but she didn't move. The copy took another step forward, and the black liquid spread around its feet like a living shadow. Then the tunnel shook. A deep impact echoed from somewhere below us. The copy stopped smiling. Another impact followed. The white door ahead vibrated slightly. Mara looked at it in horror. "It's waking up." The copy's expression changed from confidence to urgency. "Open the chamber," it said. "If the Watcher gets out before the cycle is contained, the whole facility becomes active again." "You expect me to trust you?" I asked. The copy looked directly at me. For the first time, it sounded genuinely afraid. "I don't care if you trust me. I care if it notices me." A low sound rolled through the tunnel from behind the white door. A mixture of breathing, static, and hundreds of overlapping whispers. The temperature dropped instantly. Frost began forming on the pipes overhead. Mara pulled a small object from inside her gown. Keycard. The plastic was cracked and stained, but the label was still readable. Primary chamber access, M. Ward. My card still works, she whispered. Elias and I were both researchers here before they shut the project down. Researchers? I stared at her. You helped build this place? Tears filled her eyes. We thought we were developing a recording system that could preserve consciousness after death. The Watcher was the thing we found during the excavation. The whispers behind the door grew louder. I could almost make out words now. Daniel, Subject 48, open the door. The copy backed away from the sound, pressing itself against the tunnel wall. It's looking for the original, it whispered. The white door suddenly emitted a sharp electronic beep. A red light above it turned green, and a mechanical voice echoed through the tunnel. Primary recording chamber unlocked. The door began to open by itself. The white door opened only a few inches at first. A blast of freezing air rushed out, carrying the smell of ozone, damp concrete, and something older. Something that had been sealed underground for a very long time. The whispers stopped instantly. The silence was worse. Mara stepped back, clutching the cracked keycard in both hands. The copy pressed itself against the tunnel wall, staring at the opening with naked terror. I aimed my flashlight through the gap. The beam revealed a circular chamber descending far below the tunnel level. Metal catwalks spiraled around the walls, and hundreds of cables hung from the ceiling like black vines. At the center of the chamber stood a massive ring-shaped machine, easily 20 feet across. Its inner surface was covered with old camera lenses, tape reels, and blinking red indicator lights. And inside the ring was darkness. Not ordinary shadow, a patch of blackness so deep that my flashlight seemed to disappear when it touched it. The machine hummed softly, and I realized the sound matched the humming I'd been hearing since I first entered Unit 47. Mara whispered, "That's the recorder." The copy shook its head violently. "No, don't look into the center." Before I could ask why, the darkness inside the ring moved. A shape unfolded within it, far too large to fit inside the machine, as if the ring were only a window and the real thing existed somewhere beyond it. I saw a pale surface covered in blinking eyes. Then the eyes blinked in sequence, focusing on me. My knees nearly gave out. A voice entered my head without passing through my ears. Subject 48 confirmed. The red lights around the ring turned on one by one. Mara grabbed my arm. "Look away!" I tore my eyes from the center just as the machine emitted a piercing tone. The copy cried out in pain and collapsed to the floor. Black liquid began leaking from its mouth and eyes, spreading across the concrete. The voice returned, louder this time. "Recording in progress." Every camera lens mounted on the ring rotated toward the doorway. Toward me, I felt a pressure behind my eyes, like invisible fingers pressing into my skull. Memories flashed through my mind. My childhood home, my father shouting, the first video I uploaded, the storage auction, all of it being pulled away from me frame by frame. Mara shoved me backward. "Get out of the doorway. It records whatever it can see." I stumbled behind the wall beside the entrance, and the pressure eased slightly. The copy was still writhing on the floor. "It's deleting me," it whispered. I was only a temporary version. The black liquid around it began to steam. Mara looked toward the chamber controls mounted beside the door. "There should be an emergency shutdown," she said. Elias was trying to reach it. I followed her gaze. A narrow catwalk extended from the doorway around the edge of the chamber toward a control panel on the opposite side. The problem was the catwalk passed directly in front of the recorder, and the darkness inside the ring was still watching us. Then, from deep within the chamber, another voice echoed upward. Elias's voice. "Mara, don't let him touch the panel." I looked down. The copy had stopped moving. It was staring at me with my own face, smiling again. And in my voice, it whispered, "He's already part of the recording now." The copy's smile made my stomach turn. It was wearing my face, but now I could see the tiny differences. The way the mouth stretched a little too wide. The way the eyes blinked a fraction of a second too late. Mara grabbed my shoulder. "Don't listen to it. Elias is trying to stop the shutdown because he's trapped in the recorder's network. We don't know how much of him is still real. Another echo rolled through the chamber. Mara, please. The panel will complete the transfer. Elias's voice sounded distorted, as if it were coming through dozens of broken speakers at once. The red lights around the ring machine began flashing faster. Recording in progress. A thin beam of pale light swept across the doorway, searching. Mara pulled me back against the wall. If that beam touches your eyes, it gets a full imprint. The copy slowly pushed itself upright. Steam rose from the black liquid dripping off its skin, and parts of its body flickered with static. It's losing me, it whispered. You have to choose. The beam swept closer. Mara pointed to the catwalk. We need to reach the control panel before the next recording cycle starts. The catwalk was barely 3 feet wide, suspended over a dark drop that seemed to descend forever. Frost coated the metal railings, and every few seconds the entire structure vibrated from the machine's humming. I looked toward the panel on the far side. A small green light blinked beside it. Reachable. Maybe. The copy stepped toward the entrance of the catwalk. I can get you across, it said. Why would you help me? It looked down at its own hands as black cracks spread through the skin. Because if the recorder deletes me, I stop existing. If you shut it down, the active copy survives. Mara shook her head immediately. It's lying. The shutdown pulse will destroy every unstable copy in the facility. The copy's expression hardened. Then you're all dead anyway. The beam suddenly snapped toward the doorway. Down! Mara shouted. We dropped to the floor as the pale light passed over the wall above us. Wherever it touched, the concrete surface became glossy black, like fresh film developing in a darkroom. The machine's voice echoed through the chamber. Subject 48 evasive. Secondary acquisition authorized. A new sound came from below the catwalk. Climbing. I crawled to the edge and looked down. Dozens of pale hands were pulling themselves up from the darkness beneath the chamber. Some belonged to people, others were twisted and unfinished, their fingers too long or bent in impossible directions. Failed copies. They were climbing toward the catwalk from every side. Mara's face went white. The lower archive is open. It released them. The copy looked over the railing and actually recoiled. They're not supposed to come up here. One of the hands grabbed the underside of the catwalk with a loud metallic clang. Another appeared beside it. Then another. The whole walkway began to shake. Mara made the decision for us. We run. Now. Before I could argue, she sprinted onto the catwalk. I followed. Behind us, the copy hesitated for only a second before running after us as the failed copies began pulling themselves over the edge of the platform. The catwalk shook violently beneath our feet as we ran. Frost cracked under my boots, and every step sent echoes spiraling through the enormous chamber. Below us, the failed copies were climbing over the rails, pale, half-formed bodies dragging themselves upward with jerking, unnatural movements. Mara was several yards ahead, heading for the control panel on the far side. "Don't stop!" she shouted. I risked a glance behind me. The copy was running after us, but it kept looking back at the chamber, terrified of the thing inside the recorder. Black cracks were spreading across its skin like burning film. One of the failed copies pulled itself fully onto the catwalk behind it. It had no face, just smooth gray skin where the features should have been. The copy spun around and kicked it backward. The creature fell into the darkness, but 3 more hands immediately grabbed the edge of the platform. The machine's voice boomed through the chamber. Subject 48 attempting escape. Red lights began flashing along the catwalk. Then sections of the metal floor started unlocking with loud clanks. Mara reached the control panel and slammed the emergency cover open. Inside was a row of old switches and a large red lever labeled Archive Purge/Manual Shutdown. "It still has power," she yelled. I was only a few steps away when the catwalk lurched hard to the left. A support cable snapped somewhere above us with a sound like a gunshot. The copy lost its balance and crashed into the railing. The metal bent outward. For a second, it hung there over the endless drop, staring at me with my own terrified face. "Daniel," it shouted. "Help me." His voice sounded exactly like mine. I grabbed the railing instinctively, but Mara screamed, "Don't touch it!" Another cable snapped. The section of catwalk behind us began to tear away from the wall. The failed copies were still climbing onto it, their weight pulling the structure downward. The copy looked at me one last time, and then its expression changed. The smile returned. "You hesitated," it whispered. The catwalk section ripped free. The copy and the failed copies plunged into the darkness below, their screams echoing upward until they were swallowed by the humming of the recorder. The remaining catwalk bucked violently. I threw myself forward and slid across the icy metal, stopping beside Mara at the control panel. Behind us, the broken half of the catwalk collapsed completely, disappearing into the black void. We were trapped on the far side of the chamber. Mara grabbed the red lever with both hands. "If I pull this, the archive will purge every active recording." The machine's voice responded immediately. "Warning. Purge will erase stored consciousness." A new voice came through the chamber speakers. "Elias," clearer than before. "Mara, wait. I'm still in here." Mara froze, tears filling her eyes. The recorder's central darkness began to churn, and dozens of blinking eyes opened within it, all focused on us. Then Elias's voice changed. The static returned, and in a distorted whisper, he said, "It's pretending to be me now." The distorted whisper echoed through the chamber. "It's pretending to be me now." Mara's hands were still wrapped around the red purge lever, but she was trembling so badly I thought she might collapse. "Elias?" she whispered. The speakers crackled. For a second, I heard what sounded like her brother crying. Then the voice changed again, becoming deeper, layered with the same static hiss I'd heard from the copy. "Pull the lever, Mara." The machine's warning lights flashed brighter. "Purge sequence available. Stored consciousness will be erased." I looked into the center of the recorder. The darkness was moving violently now, and dozens of pale faces were appearing within it. Some human, some unfinished, all trapped beneath the surface like reflections in black water. One of them looked exactly like Elias from the old recordings. Another looked like Mara, and for a horrifying instant, I saw my own face among them. The recorder spoke directly into my head. "Subject 48 already archived." Pain exploded behind my eyes. Memories flashed through me again, but this time they weren't all mine. I saw a woman in a lab coat arguing with Elias beside the ring machine. I saw workers sealing the underground chamber. I saw a pale shape being lifted from a cavern beneath the facility. And I saw Mara, younger and terrified, watching the first human copy open its eyes. I staggered backward. Mara caught me. "What did it show you?" "You were researchers," I gasped. "You found it underground." Her face crumpled. "We thought it was some kind of natural phenomenon, a structure that could store information. When we connected the cameras to it, it started storing people instead." The chamber shook. The ring machine began rotating slowly, every camera lens turning toward us. A beam of pale light formed in the center. Mara looked at the lever, then at the faces trapped inside the darkness. "If there's any chance Elias is really in there," the speakers erupted with static. "Mara, listen to me." This time the voice sounded exactly like the recordings from earlier, desperate, exhausted, human. "The real me is gone. Copied my voice years ago. Don't let it use me to stop you." Mara's eyes filled with tears. "How do I know this is really you?" A long pause followed. Then the voice whispered, "Because when we were children, you used to hide in storage unit 12 during storms, and I'd bring you a flashlight so you wouldn't be scared." Mara covered her mouth. That never appeared in any recording." The machine's voice thundered over the speakers. "Deception detected." The pale beam suddenly swept across the control platform. I ducked, but the edge of the light clipped my shoulder. Instantly, I saw another version of myself standing beside the panel, reaching for the lever with a calm, expressionless face. A future copy. It looked at me and said, "Don't fight it anymore." Then the vision vanished, leaving a burning sensation where the beam had touched me. Mara looked at my shoulder and went pale. A black mark was spreading beneath the fabric of my jacket, thin lines branching across my skin like cracks in exposed film. The recorder spoke again. Subject 48 imprint stabilizing. Mara tightened her grip on the lever. Daniel, if I pull this, it might destroy the copy that's forming from you. I looked at the black lines creeping across my skin. Then I looked into the darkness full of trapped faces. And somewhere deep inside the machine, I heard the copy's voice whispering, "If you survive the purge, you won't know which version of you walked out." The black lines on my shoulder were spreading faster now. They crawled beneath my skin like veins filled with ink, moving down my arm and across my collarbone. Every few seconds, a sharp pulse of pain shot through my chest, followed by flashes of memories that didn't belong to me. I saw the storage facility as it had looked decades ago. I saw Mara and Elias arguing beside the recorder, and I saw myself, except it wasn't me, standing in front of Unit 47, opening the door while something watched from behind the camera. Mara noticed my expression. "It's feeding you recordings," she said. The machine's voice echoed through the chamber. Subject 48 synchronization. 63%. The number made my stomach drop. What happens at 100%? Mara looked away. "You stop being the original." The ring machine rotated faster, and the trapped faces inside the darkness began pressing against the invisible boundary, their mouths opening in silent screams. Then Elias's voice came through the speakers one last time. Clear, human, urgent. "Mara, pull the lever now." The recorder immediately answered with a distorted imitation of the same voice. "Mara, don't do it." The two voices overlapped until I couldn't tell which one was real anymore. Mara was crying openly now, her hands still locked on the purge lever. "I can't lose you again," she whispered. A new beam of pale light formed in the center of the machine and swept toward us. This time it hit the control platform directly. The world disappeared. I found myself standing in a bright version of the chamber. The black mark was gone. The alarms were silent. And another Daniel was standing beside me. He looked completely normal. No static, no black eyes, no cracks in the skin. He smiled gently. "You don't have to suffer through this," he said. "Let Mara leave with me. I can be the version that survives." I stared at him. "How do I know you're not the copy?" He stepped closer. "Because I remember everything you do." He started naming memories only I should have known. Learning to ride a bike, failing my first driving test, the night I uploaded my first video, sitting in my room wondering if my life would ever change. My chest tightened. He even remembered last night, when I had almost convinced myself that deleting the video would be easier than facing the fear of failure. "I know how tired you are," he said softly. "I know how badly you want something to finally work." For a moment, I wanted to believe him. Then I noticed his reflection in the polished metal of the recorder. It was still smiling, but the real version standing in front of me had stopped. The copy saw that I'd noticed. Its expression slowly widened into that impossible grin. The illusion shattered. I was back on the control platform. Mara was shouting my name. The machine's synchronization number had jumped. 81%. The black lines had reached my neck. I grabbed Mara's hands and forced them tighter around the lever. "Pull it! Daniel! Pull it now!" The recorder screamed through every speaker in the chamber. Subject 48 resisting archival. The floor began to crack beneath us. The darkness inside the ring surged upward like a tidal wave of black liquid, and hundreds of pale hands reached out from within it. Mara looked into my eyes for one final second. I nodded. With a sob, she pulled the red lever all the way down. The moment Mara pulled the lever, the entire chamber went silent. Not quieter, silent. The humming stopped. The alarms died. Even the echoes vanished, as if the underground facility had been wrapped in a vacuum. Then the recorder screamed. The sound came from everywhere at once. Through the speakers, through the walls, and directly inside my head. The black wave rising from the ring froze in midair, and the hundreds of pale hands reaching toward us began to crack like glass. A blinding white light erupted from the machine. Mara was thrown backward across the platform. I felt the black mark on my skin ignite with pain. The lines spread across my neck and jaw, burning like molten metal beneath my flesh. Synchronization terminated. Archive purge initiated. The faces trapped inside the darkness started dissolving one by one. Some were screaming, some looked relieved, and in the center of the collapsing void, I saw Elias. For the first time, he looked peaceful. He met my eyes and gave a small nod. Then he was gone. The catwalks began to fail around us. Metal supports snapped, and sections of the platform folded into the abyss below. "Daniel!" Mara screamed. I tried to move toward her, but my legs gave out. The black mark was fading now, peeling away from my skin in flakes of ash. The recorder's ring spun faster and faster until the camera lenses around its edge began exploding, showering sparks into the chamber. A final message appeared on the nearest monitor. All active subjects erased. The machine imploded. The darkness collapsed inward, shrinking to a single point of black light before disappearing completely. A shockwave tore through the chamber, throwing me off my feet and into the railing. The last thing I saw underground was Mara crawling toward me through the smoke. Then everything went black. I woke up in a hospital 3 days later. The doctors said I'd been found unconscious near the storage facility after a partial underground collapse. Most of the lower levels had caved in, and the authorities were treating it as an abandoned industrial site. Unit 47 was gone, buried under tons of concrete. Mara was alive. She was in another room, recovering from hypothermia and exhaustion. When she finally came to see me, she looked older somehow, as if the years underground had caught up with her all at once. "It's over," she said quietly. I wanted to believe her. A week later, I returned to the facility. The auction yard was empty, surrounded by construction fencing. Workers were preparing to demolish the remaining buildings. One of them recognized me. "You're the guy who bought Unit 47, right?" "Yeah." He hesitated. "Strangest thing. After the collapse, we found a storage ledger that shouldn't exist anymore." My stomach tightened. He handed me a photocopied page. At the bottom was a new entry, dated July 23, 2026. Unit 48. Sealed/contents unknown. I stared at the page. "There was never a Unit 48, I said. The worker shrugged. "There is now." That night, back in my apartment, I finally unpacked the jacket I'd been wearing underground. Something was still in the inside pocket. A mini DV tape. No label, no writing, just a single strip of red tape wrapped around the case. My hands were shaking as I held it. I should have destroyed it. Instead, I looked toward the camcorder sitting on my desk, the same one the police had returned with my belongings. The battery light was off. The camera was dark. Then, with a soft mechanical click, the red recording light turned on by itself. And from the tiny speaker came a whisper I recognized immediately. "Subject 49. Recording begins now."